why I keep saying she. I just assume because like a lot of the haters that I get are like really angry tiffs that are mad at me because I'm a tomboy and don't want to transition. And they're like bitter that I can just be a woman and be confident in my masculine self, in my overall masculine energy or whatever that I give off. I don't even think I'm that masculine. I'm I like girly shit, but I've often been told that I'm intimidating, and I don't even know what that means. Like, am I scary? Like, you're scared of me? Like, what are you scared of? That I'm going to say something that will, like, cut too close to home? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think I'm also just a little bit of, like, a no filter person. Like, I just talk and I don't really have a filter. I just think out loud. Oh. If a person has a penis, he's a man. If a person has a penis, he's a man. He can tuck it to conceal it, let it dangle and reveal it. If a person has a penis, he's a man. Or maybe that's the nutsack part. Anyways, it makes me feel really powerful when someone says I'm making life worse for a whole demographic of people, because adults around them are telling them that, and adults around them are modeling this behavior. Adults like Robert Blaire White, as I should call him. His name's Robert. That's the name his mother gave him. And, he is probably one of the most irritating people to me because he really, really capes so hard trying to be like, look at these trans predators, look at these TikTok creeps, look at these blah, 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 but I'm the good trans because I'm a true trans and blah, blah, blah. Like, how are we still, like, there's still people that are being like, oh, Blaire White's great. I'm like, ew, like, would you actually want to share a bathroom with him? Because he expects you to, because he uses women's bathrooms and he doesn't see it as a problem. Like, he's not a friend of the TERFs, just saying. He's very self-serving, incredibly selfish, incredibly in denial. I think the only reason he hasn't detransitioned yet is because he didn't get the snip and flip. And at least he has enough sense to not get the snip and flip, but he's not gender critical at all. He's just covering his own ass. He's just trying to justify what he's done to his family. Like, ripped apart his family, never speaks to his dad anymore, never speaks to a whole side of his family because they don't want to deal with his weird sexual fetish, because that's what it is. I don't want to hear shit about animal rights. If you look up a list of like serial killers, like probably 50% of them at least cross-dress, and that's part of their mental illness. It's part of their psychopathy. It's part of their porn addiction that led them to this place where they end up, murdering a woman or a child. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is a really good example of that. He was a porn addict, and he talked about how violent pornography was what inspired him to go and sexually assault and kill young girls. And if you ever want to get really mad, go look at the trial of Ted Bundy and the way the judge spoke about him, and then compare it to the way that the judge spoke about Aileen Wuornos. And I could make a whole video about Aileen Wuornos, but I think I need to watch the monster movie first. I've never seen it. So maybe I'll do a review of that movie. Because I think Aileen is actually kind of an icon, kind of a feminist icon. And I don't think that she was a serial killer. I think she was defending herself. Female criminality is very different from male criminality. For one, the amount of like violent offenders in women prisons is like very low. Most of them are in there for drug-related stuff or, theft or whatever, but they're not in there because they've murdered someone, or because they violently raped someone and like left them bleeding on the side of the road. Like that's why a lot of the men are in prison. It's because they've done shit like that. So you're then putting those guys, like the worst of the violent sexually offending criminals, putting them in prison with women, and the women are getting raped and getting impregnated. And people are like, oh, how could we have known? Fucking assholes. Yeah, by the way, Trudeau is the one that brought that in Canada. So if you know anyone who voted for Trudeau, call them a piece of shit. I'm not kidding. Tell them that they are a fucking asshole because they didn't do even an iota of research into this man and the atrocities, the war crimes that he's permitted to happen under his watch to the women incarcerated in his country. The only people you celebrate are Tims. Men with sexual fetishes get put to the top of the priorities for Mr. Justin Trudeau. So yeah, if you know anyone who voted for Justin Trudeau, send them links, send them articles about the men that have been transferred into women's prisons in Canada, and tell them they're a fucking idiot for voting for the man that did that. And that they need to be way more cautious when they fill out their ballot next time. They need to be on the ball, because this happened under all of our watch. Nobody knew it was happening because the media didn't talk about it. And the only way that we're going to get to solving this problem is to shove it in people's faces and say, look, you stupid piece of shit. This is what you've enabled to happen by not caring enough about women. And I feel like shit because when I was 19 and voted in the first election that he ran in, I voted for him. I feel like a fucking idiot. Obviously, I hate myself for doing that. You know what I mean? So, like, make people feel like shit. If you know people who are, like, all gung-ho on Trudeau, call them out on it. Not even just the trucker stuff, not even just the insane COVID hypocrisy. Like, call him out on putting rapists in women's prisons. Because that was him. Him and him alone. It was his choice to do it, and he just did it. He didn't have to have anyone sign off on it. There was no vote. There was no interview with women in prisons about what they would be comfortable with. No. Prioritize men's feelings over women's safety. Like, plenty of powerful men are trans themselves, and they push the trans agenda. Like, what's his face? Rothblatt and Bruce Jenner. He's a powerful man who completely pushed this trans thing on everybody because he has a cross-dressing fetish that started to develop probably decades ago, and included him admitting to a room full of people that he used to cross-dress in his young teenage daughter's underpants. And she caught him one time, which I'm sure was on purpose. I'm sure he wanted to be caught and wanted her to know that he was doing that and wanted to be seen exhibiting himself in her underwear to her. I'm sure that was part of his sexual kicks. I think he entered like a girls' golf tournament or something, women's golf tournament, so that's stupid. But yeah, and he killed a woman with his car. Because I made a post about how I'm like transitioning into my final form, which is a trad wife. I'm actually kind of for bringing back like sex-segregated schooling, because I think we should just be able to focus on learning. What do you want to be? I want to be a walrus. It's a hard knock life for us. I think if anything, men who are married have more balls than men who aren't, because they're committed. They're sure of themselves. They're confident in their decision. You know, like, men who don't commit have no balls. It's the men who commit that have balls, because you have to be vulnerable. You know, you have, like, that's the whole thing about balls. They're very vulnerable. They're very sensitive. They're very easily broken. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be sensitive with balls. They're not as strong as people like to make them out to believe. But I feel that the only men that are truly, you know, able to say, like, you know, I've got balls or whatever, are men who stand by what they do, you know, stand by their responsibilities and come through for people and are respectful and a good upstanding member of society and work hard. And, you know, like, I think that's what gives you balls. I don't think you have balls just because you're like a ladies' man or because you're a tough guy or blah, blah, blah. Like, no, being trans is innate. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a 100% fabricated ideology created by pedophiles, Bill. John Money is a pedophile. Come on. Alfred Kinsey. Like, you did this whole thing about pride and you didn't talk once about Alfred Kinsey. Shame. Tisk tisk.